The following thoughts on Happy Hour do not represent Cox Media Group or its sponsoring. Anything you hear may and will be used against you. Thank you.
All security!
What's up? This is Happy Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe. And from Comedy Central and his latest comedy special, Father Figure, on the phone line on Happy Hour is comedian Roy Wood Jr. What's up, man?
Dude, how the hell are you, sir?
I'm doing good, man. We haven't spoken for about a year, so how has everything been for you, my man?
Dude, I have no complaints in the world. I'm trying not to get punched in the face by people who don't like what I do on The Daily Show.
Now, how does that work? Do you often get mad when people get offended by your jokes, or are you able to brush off the mean comments?
No, I don't care if people get mad. You're entitled to that. Getting offended because someone doesn't agree with you is such a wasted emotion. You can't stop people from disagreeing with you. That's what the world is built on. My issue is don't try to fight me and challenge me and all of that. Like, there's a certain line that can't be crossed. And I live in New York, so, you don't know when someone's just going to walk up and try to stab you or something crazy. So I try to keep my head on the swivel and keep my kids close.
Do you ever fear that maybe you're out in public and there's maybe a racist guy or just some crazy Trump supporter that didn't like one of your jokes? Are you ever afraid of that happening?
I don't know if afraid is the word, but I'm prepared. And I wouldn't be surprised. I think, how can I put it? Like you had a white supremacist stab a guy just for being black in New York City. Killed a man dead on the street. And the guy was doing nothing more than just being black and walking down the street. So I feel like you have to be conscious of that. For me, there's people that are going to recognize me from The Daily Show and be like, cool. And then there's going to be people that legitimately do not like what I do, and they'll also recognize me. So if someone stares at me too long, I give a quick hello nod, and if it's turned, cool. And if it's not, I know what it is.
Here's what I want to ask you, too, is are there ever times that they prevent you from writing some jokes or presenting them because they might be too edgy and they would be afraid of offending people? You know what I mean? Do they ever say no to some of your jokes?
No, I don't think they say no. If anything, your joke is turned down because it doesn't have an edge or because it doesn't have a point of view. It's one thing to be funny, but it's another thing to really be able to say something underneath that joke. And I think that's the magic of satire, is being able to turn something on its head and have a strong opinion. And of course there's going to be people who disagree, but at the end of the day, as a show, we're trying to put out, a particular point of view or a particular angle on an issue 9 times out of 10. So you're more likely to have your joke shot down or it not be fully fleshed out if it doesn't have an opinion.
How much prep are you guys putting into the show each night, and are you guys often conversing during the day with Trevor Noah on which jokes should be on?
That's a daily occurrence. I mean, we start with a blank sheet of paper at 9 a.m. There's a morning meeting where the writers and producers sit down and kind of crosstalk the issues of the day. What happened last night, what's happening today in the political landscape. You start shaping up a couple jokes around that. You decide what's important, and you start writing scripts based on those topics. And Trevor's hands-on in that process, from the morning meeting to rehearsal to rewrite to the actual taping of the show at 6 p.m.
What have been some of the best parts about working with Trevor Noah these last 2 years?
I think the best thing that I've gotten in working at The Daily Show is being able to look at the world through his prism, because with him being a foreigner, he has an interesting perspective of being able to break down both sides with a little less bias, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't lived in it for so long. He's kind of coming in as a third-party observer and going, I see jokes here and I see jokes here. And sometimes you don't notice that if you live too close to it for too long, like myself,
How supportive has Comedy Central been with you guys these last few years?
I think they've been very supportive. I think as a network, the ratings are the highest they've ever been since the premiere of the show. So, thankfully they stuck with the product and trusted Trevor's vision and what he wanted to do and the direction he wanted to go, and really have been pretty hands-off as a network. It's not like it's a bunch of executives coming in there every day trying to straighten stuff out and change everything and make you do this instead of that. I think they trusted the producers, the writers, and more importantly, Trevor.
So I watched your latest comedy special, Father Figure, the night it aired on Comedy Central, and I was very impressed with it. What's the process that goes into a comedy special being made?
Well, as a comic, you just write and perform, and then you start designating which jokes best go together for an hour. Yeah, it's no different than if you think of it musically. An artist can record 50 or 60 songs and then decides which of these songs will go on the album. And once you have the album together, then that's what you go and try and sell to a record label, or you try and get the network on board with wanting to actually carry it. So I did the hour, I recorded it, and then you pitch it to a couple of networks and see who wants to take it. And, thankfully Comedy Central saw something in the material, and they're like, yo, we want you to do that here. So here's some money, go to Atlanta, shoot it professionally, and then bring us back that VHS tape, and we'll put it on the TV screen.
How awesome was it to think that you had your own comedy special on Comedy Central that people got to watch?
Oh, that was very awesome. That's definitely, when you think of the volume of comedians that exist and the number that get our specials, it's definitely more comedians getting our specials now than, say, 20 years ago in the business, but still by percentage total, it's still very small. So to be able to have that opportunity, it's a blessing. And hell, the second one's not promised, so you savor the one that you get. There's a lot of people that did one special and you haven't seen two from them. So, that's the nature of the business sometimes. So, it is awesome to have that opportunity, especially when you're looking at, for me, being 20 years in before, finally getting an at-bat.
So you've been in comedy for 20 years. You've had ups and downs. Like the first time you came on Happy Hour, you talked about the time your car broke down while driving back from a gig. And now you're doing very well. You have a comedy special. You're working with Trevor Noah. How grateful are you each day when you just look in the mirror and say, I'm doing well right now?
I feel grateful, but I don't rest on it because it could all be gone tomorrow. So for me, it's funny because as a performer, I think that career-wise, there's probably an 8-minute window where you sit and really enjoy success before the paranoia of not losing it sets in. And so as you work to try and do better and be better as a performer, you focus less and less on enjoying things and more on, all right, what's next? What's the next hour special? What's the next set of jokes I'm going to write? Like, you start looking and shaping the next parts of your career. So, I had a quiet moment between shows at my hour special taping where I probably took 8 minutes to just kind of, sit and be thankful. And then after that, it was literally to start in the green room after my hour special taping. I was sitting there trying to figure out, all right, what are the new jokes? What jokes am I not going to use on the special? What jokes are going to be edited out? And based on those jokes, are those jokes good to be used going forward? Or do I want to start a whole new act from top to bottom? And so it's, to me, the process, you go through this process of building a career, and then you have a career, and then begins the process of trying to keep the career. And I just think those two mindsets have kept me from really ever having any elongated moments of observed awesomeness of it all. It just becomes, okay, I got it. I got to keep it. How do I keep it? And I think in that shift, in that paranoia shift, is the recognition that what I have is rare and that what I have is something precious, because you shift from trying to make it to trying to keep making it, if that makes sense.
So when you're not working and you're trying to find some free time, what do you like to do so that you're not burning out? Because, with comedy and any type of media business, it's a 24-hour grind. So do you ever try to find free time?
When I get time, batting cages and video games and puzzles. I like jigsaw puzzles and Sudoku. Those are all pretty simplistic activities that require a lot of brain coordination, hand and eye coordination, if you will. So for me, those things are really good. Those are probably the only things I can do that can truly clear my mind without thinking. Like, if I don't want to think about something, or there's something stressful coming up and I'm dreading it, then I do one of those activities.
What I want to ask you, too, is do you find yourself watching other comedy? Because, like, for me, I like to listen to different radio shows, not to take their ideas, but to hear how they present their show. So do you ever watch any other people's works or any other TV shows, or are you focused on your own product?
I enjoy watching other stuff. I know some comedians don't like to do it, but I'm the opposite. I like to see everything that's being done. If I could watch every comedy special every year, I will. I do a fairly good job of watching most everything. There's a bunch of stuff on CISO that I got to get around to knocking out. But other than that, I try to watch everybody's comedy because I enjoy seeing different angles on issues. Plus, I like having an awareness of what's being talked about so that I can try and touch on something that maybe no one else has breached the surface on, or at least from an angle that I'm looking to explore.
How awesome has radio been for you when it comes to support? I mean, you have Mike Calta, which I work in promotions at The Bone, so I see him a lot. You have Mike Calta, who's been a supporter, Bob and Tom, Bennington. How awesome has radio been for spreading your comedy?
It's integral. I would argue that in my early days, radio did more for me than television. Doing David Letterman was a great industry validation, and it opened the door for me in terms of meetings and real opportunities in the business. But Bob and Tom helped me sell tickets. Bob and Tom put asses in seats. And both important institutions, but for different reasons. There were a lot of radio DJs, too many to name. At the peak, I think it was 40 different stations that played my prank phone calls. And so during that time, those radio DJs in those cities playing my pranks gave me a presence in markets where I wasn't performing. And more often than not, my being on the radio in those markets was the sole reason that I got booked in those comedy clubs, not because I had television credits. I mean, at some point, I'm sure I'd do it again. I did it for 10 years in Birmingham and Atlanta. So, in that time co-hosting and even hosting my own morning show, what I realized, though, is that it's a serious commitment that you really can't double dip on. Like, I ended up having to step down in Birmingham as radio host because I got cast in a sitcom on TBS, Sullivan and Son. And without the financial support of your radio station, it's very difficult as a DJ to do multiple things because you have to have a staff and the technology in place to be able to do your job from multiple cities. And unfortunately, I was at a station that didn't have the desire and or the resources at the time to be able to fully flesh out something.
Now, what I want to ask you is, where do you want to see yourself in 5 years? Would you want to have your own show on Comedy Central, have multiple specials? Where do you want to see yourself in 2022?
Well, it'd be nice to have another special on my own show, but I don't really think about all of that. Anticipation dictates disappointment. So for me, the formula has always just been work hard, write good jokes, and something good will happen, and another door will open. And for 20 years, that's what's happened for me. So I just continue doing that. But, I could sit up here and wax poetic and tell you all of this grandiose plans, but hell, if you asked me that question 5 years ago, would I be talking about The Daily Show? Probably not. But the opportunity opened up. It was never something that I was thinking about doing or even thought that I would have an opportunity to do. But here I am. And that Daily Show opportunity came about from being funny and writing jokes and just staying consistent. And then your name gets in the right people's mouths when certain opportunities come about.
Now, for people that would want to find your work online and on TV, where's the best places to see it?
Oh, dude, it's just RoyWoodJr.com, RoyWoodJr.com, no S. That's my website. That's put an @ sign in front of it for social media. It's all the same.
Now, before I let you go, man, how awesome was it when the Cubs won the World Series back in October? I know you're a big fan, and I'm from Chicago. So, dude, that was like the best night of my life.
Dude, what a damn rush.
I know, right?
What a rush. And I was there for it. It was very, very beautiful. A very beautiful situation.
Dude, I never thought it was going to happen. 2007, 2003, 2008, all the years that we choked, man, especially in 03 with the Bartman catch. I just never thought it was going to happen, and then it happened. You know, it's lovely.
Yeah, the biggest issue now is what now?
I know, right?
Well, when we escape the aquarium and get to the ocean, I just don't want the Cub fans to turn into the douchebag Boston Red Sox fans who, you know, are always, you know, just getting a little more arrogant. Like I liked Boston fans a little more when they were down on their luck, and then they started getting championships over the last decade, and they're kind of a different. The town has a different identity now, so I'm very interested to see what happens to the identity of Cub fans.
Well, I heard this clip on Mancow's show. Their producer, Abe, went on the block and got audio outside of Wrigley Field, and they had this girl on. Now, granted, it was just one person, but she was saying how Sox fans were losers and thugs and whores, and I'm just thinking, like, I hope Cub fans don't turn into that, where you begin kind of going down on the South Side fans. You know what I mean? Like, let's just be humble. There's no reason to turn into Red Sox fans.
Yeah, well, it's coming. Let's hope not, but it might be coming. If there's more people like that woman, then we're definitely in trouble.
Well, man, keep up the good work. I love seeing you on TV, and it's been a lot of fun to have you on Hoppe Hour another time, my man.
A pleasure.
All right, keep up the good work, Roy.
All right, good deal.
All right, peace out, dude.
Hoppe Hour. Hoppe Hour.